Okay, 76 points higher on the Nifty. 15,746 is where we are at. And we've been talking about, all things market and what's moving. Power is a big theme. This unlock is a big theme. Look at names like IRCTC banks, etc. have taken a bit of a backseat. I mean, the bank Nifty is up, but nothing like what a lot of the other rest of the market is doing right now. Petronet LNG is buzzing. It will report fourth quarter numbers tomorrow. Sonal, what are we expecting from the company?
Well, this time around, Prashant, we are expecting weak set of numbers on a sequential basis, and that is because spot LNG prices had touched record high levels. That would mean lower imports. So overall, while revenues are expected to go up by 6.5% at 7,820 crore rupees, it's EBITDA that will take a hit, expected to decline by 22% at 1,035 crore rupees. Margins lower by almost 500 basis points at 13.4%. Profits accordingly will see a decline of 26%. As I mentioned, due to sharp increase in spot LNG prices, import of LNG imports this time around was lower, and that is why the Dahej terminal utilization is expected to decline to 96%, which compares with 99% in third quarter and 108% in second quarter. However, we are expecting an increase in throughput at Kochi terminal, and that is also because of the Mangalore-Kochi pipeline that came into commercialization mode, and also because some of the volumes moved from Dahej to Kochi terminal this time around. So this time around 29% is the utilization we are expecting for that terminal. Margins are lower because of lower spot volumes this time around. So volumes are expected to go down by 1.5% on a YOY basis, down 8% on a sequential basis. While these are backdated numbers, now spot LNG prices have come down a little bit further. Apart from that, the stock is trading at cheaper valuations, 10 times 2-year forward earnings, and the stock also hasn't done much this year, quite flattish on a year-to-date basis. Back to you.
Sonal, thanks very much for that. Hemang, there is enough and more appetite for public sector names. A lot of them in the cyclical category, actually, bulk of them, most of them. Any top picks there?
Yeah, so Prashant, we've just come out with a nice dividend yield basket. So, names like Coal India, which offers 9-10% dividend yield, IOC offers a similar kind of a dividend yield, and even names like Power Grid, where the dividend yield could be about 5 to 6%. So I think people are looking out for the opportunities where you have, these kind of government companies where the business is stable, not that exciting in terms of growth triggers, but people do want to participate in such dividend yield come, some kind of a revival place. So I think, some of these names fit into that theme, and definitely, particularly the retail customers would be very keen to get into that.
Okay, got that. The other thing I wanted to discuss is what's happening with some of these companies like TVS Motor. Hemang, I don't know if you followed it, but there is the start of a major restructuring program, that TVS Motor has unleashed, and they will be sort of separating all the holding companies and eventually be distributing dividend to shareholders. So cleaning up the whole group, basically. At this price, how does the risk reward look for TVS Motor?
Yeah, so Sonia, two things. One is that if you have any sort of a capital restructuring or simplification of the structure and the cross-holding part is streamlined, then that would add some, trigger, or, people may take it positively. And secondly, in terms of the overall business, I think given that both TVS and Bajaj have a slightly higher component of exports, and in the lockdown, the domestic guys were far more affected. So definitely there is a preference for names like TVS and Bajaj in the current scenario. And overall, we think that compared to two-wheelers, the four-wheelers, so the names like Maruti, Escorts, Mahindra, they are relatively better placed to play this entire monsoon theme also.
Okay, just stay on. We'll come back. We have about a few more minutes left before the day comes to an end. The trading day, that is. But in the interim, we had a chance to speak to Manishi Ray Chaudhary of BNP Paribas about his view on the market in several sectors. So let's listen into what he had to say, and then we'll be back with the final minutes of trade.
Domestic institution and domestic retail money has flown in significant measure, and that has clearly boosted the market. As a consequence, I think Indian valuations today, if one looks at the headline valuations, they are possibly about 25 to 30% premium to the long-term averages and also to the peer group. I would possibly be a little cautious about India right now. I would be cautious about certain sectors like consumer discretionaries, industrials. I would be a little more positive on the globally linked sectors like IT services or the materials and commodities. At this point of time, the only NBFCs that we have in our India allocation of the model portfolio are the housing finance companies. There has been a bit of a revival in the real estate sector, and we're playing the property sector through the housing finance companies, the really top-rung, large-cap frontline HFCs. Apart from that, we are a little cautious about the retail lending NBFCs right now. We're actually quite positive on the globally exposed auto stocks. As you rightly point out, that there's a degree of consumption recovery that we're seeing outside India, and particularly in the developed markets. And majority of the companies that you named have an exposure to those markets. One good way of assessing this is to look at India's export destinations and the degree of reopening that these export destinations are having. In the banking space, we're still predominantly focused on the large cap frontline private sector banks. We think that given their past experience, they're actually in a position to tackle the COVID-related lockdowns and the potential concern about asset quality in a much better manner than the second or third tier banks or the public sector banks would do. So our focus still remains on the private sector banks, the large cap frontline banks, and we think as a consequence of what we are seeing today, over the medium term, they would actually gain market share at an accelerated pace than what was happening earlier.
Okay, that's the word coming in from Manishi Raychaudhuri. For now, we're just winding down to what has been a really good day of trade. I mean, we started off with some gains, we built on to those gains, and now we're up almost 0.5%. The mid-cap index is up over 300 points, and that seems to be the way we would end the day. So let me get some final calls in. Hemang, I wanted your thoughts on Bajaj Finance. I know we've spoken about NBFCs on the whole, but particularly for names like Bajaj Finance, considering they've been such wealth creators for investors, will this dip be a good opportunity to buy into the stock?
Absolutely, Sonia. I think the moderation in the B2B and certain part of their auto finance component, there can be some small, let's say, negative reaction. But I think given the franchise, the balance sheet, and the fact that if you look beyond, let's say, near term 1 quarter or so, overall AUM growth will be pretty strong for this year at 21-22%. And after that, maybe more than 25%. So any, let's say, a correction of 4 to 5%, definitely one should really look to get into a franchise like that.
Okay, I mean, just 2 minutes and 30-40 seconds to go as far as close is concerned. Mitesh, any last words for today? And in terms of positioning, any new trades, anything coming up on your screen?
See, one, I think, maintain long, as I said, revise the stop loss on the Nifty to about 15,700 levels on the spot. That apart, I think, I think Prashant, power was one thing which we were talking about, but other stocks like, some of the IT names and the Nifty IT index has started to, at least give some traction on the intraday charts. So TCS, I think, can be a good BTST trade, or even a Tech Mahindra, I think, could possibly see some follow through of the up move which it's seeing today.
Thanks, Mitesh, for that. Hemang, thank you very much for joining in and appreciate your time as always. I mean, another good day, 15,747, not at the day's high, but, after the kind of gains we've had in the preceding weeks, this is nothing to be scoffed at, very strong. Let's just take a very quick look at, things as we wind down. I'll just quickly run top